to the press review with Emily, who's also with us here on set. She's starting off with Marine Le Pen's appeal verdict. Expecting it tomorrow, aren't we?
Yes, and even though we're expecting that verdict to fall tomorrow, it's already on the front pages of the French press. Let's have a look first at Libération today. It says that the Court of Appeal's ruling will determine whether Marine Le Pen or Jordan Bardella will run for president in 2027, a decision which will obviously have major political consequences both for the far right and the National Rally. Now, the left-wing paper Mediapart takes a slightly different angle here. It says that the National Rally's legal troubles are unlikely to end tomorrow. The paper reports that a document from the European Parliament's anti-fraud unit has found irregularities in several contracts awarded between 2024 and 2025 by a group chaired by Jordan Bardella, contracts which were handed to service providers led by figures from the radical far left. Politico is also talking about this story on their European website here. It says that Bardella and his group breached spending rules by at least 4.3 million euros. The paper says that although the electoral impact could be limited, it could be a long-term problem for the party.
Meanwhile, the New York Times discusses the political battle for the soul of the internet.
Yes, this is quite a long read in the New York Times here. It talks about Wikipedia, which has become the battlefield for the soul of internet. Apparently, the article says that the monument of collective online fact-gathering is under threat from multiple fronts. The MAGA right and Elon Musk have been accusing the platform of bias and anti-Semitism. They call it Wikipedia, famously. AI is raiding the encyclopedia's resources, and repressive governments have, quotes, turned its volunteer editors into penal colonies. Now, Wikipedia, a neutral organisation, is going on the offensive, albeit quite diplomatically. They've actually hired an actual senior diplomat, a former ambassador in Bernadette Meehan, to lead the defence of the platform. Now, she says that one of the many ways Wikipedia could resist a far-right invasion is to find new and younger volunteer editors. It's a really interesting read through it, so well worth your time.
Sounds very interesting. It does. Meanwhile, Emily, 2026 World Cup is in full swing, as if she didn't know. She's been reporting on it non-stop. But one news story seems to be getting rather a lot of attention.
Yes, even more attention this morning on the World Cup because the US, as you may know, will be playing Belgium later this evening at 2 a.m. Paris time. And luckily, Folarin Balogun, the star striker, will be available to play. And why? Well, because Donald Trump said so. This article here in The Guardian reports that, according to its sources, Trump made 3 phone calls to FIFA and probably to Gianni Infantino himself to make sure that Balogun would be available to play against Belgium, despite his suspension after receiving a red card. Now, the president later wrote on Truth Social, quote, "Thank you to FIFA for doing what was right and reversing a great injustice." Now, ahead of their game against the US, Belgium head coach here, Rudy Garcia, was asked what he thought about the whole situation, and he said he wasn't aware that July 5th was also April Fool's Day in America. Meanwhile, The Times has this opinion piece by sports journalist Martin Samuel there. He says that whatever Team USA achieves next will always carry an asterisk. His piece argues that FIFA has laid waste to its own tournament, and he explains that the reason why FIFA is so often accused of conspiracy theories is because so much of what they do appears conspiratorial. Now, for instance, quote, shoehorning Lionel Messi and Inter Miami into last season's Club World Cup, or suspending 2 matches of Cristiano Ronaldo's 3-game ban. Now, of course, the news hasn't gone down particularly well in Belgium either, so let's have a look at this Belgian daily Le Soir. It says that FIFA's rules, which were presented up until now as unchangeable, have suddenly become quite flexible. Quotes, yet a regulation that appears to adapt to circumstances quickly ceases to become a regulation. It becomes a tool for manipulation. Now, remains to be seen if Balogun can get the US through to the next round, but you'll have to tune into that game and see.
I'm sure Emily will be. Well, the Belgians might get their revenge this evening, but in the meantime, they just became world champions in another sporting event. What's this about?
Yes, a much more reasonable sporting event. A Belgian woman has become world champion of shrimp shelling in Belgium, actually. Chantal Goes is her name. She shelled 140...
There's one behind them as well. He
There
looks a
is
bit
one.
worried.
He escaped. He escaped the
okay.
atrocities there. But she was able to shred 146 grams of shrimp in 10 minutes. So I've done the maths for you, Stuart, just so that you can get an idea. That's roughly 58 shrimp, or just under 6 shrimp a minute, in case you wanted to try it out at work. So just so you get a general idea of the vibe of this competition, I have a video here. This was the 2025 edition, and as I said, it's quite a carefully watched competition. The rules are very strict, the red cards are respected, and I think that's because the referees are dressed in such convincing outfits, and I would suggest to FIFA that maybe they could adopt this strategy so that their on-field decisions maybe are a bit more convincing.
I love the way they've all got aprons on as well. I can imagine their
hats.
fingers after. Yeah, why do they have to wear their hats? Is that in case it gets on their hair? Or is that kind of unlikely, isn't
Get
it?
a key ring. Yeah.
Key ring. Everything, all shrimp related. Emily, thanks a lot, Emily Boyle, with the football and shrimp news for us here on France 24. That's the latest. A lot more coming up after the break.